Let's get into panel number 4 and the last panel for the day on the topic Employee Performance Management in Era of AI and Big Data. Mr. Sudhir Warier, Head of Learning and Development, In-Premises Connect, Reliance Jio Infocom. Let's applaud for Mr. Sudhir Warier. Can we also have Mr. Ayush Shankar Dikshit, AGM, Human Resources and Administration, BEC Chemicals. Let's keep the applause going for Mr. Ayush Shankar Dikshit. They'll be joined by Ms. Manisha Kelkar, CHRO, Nuvoco Vistas. Ms. Manisha Kelkar, let's applaud for Ms. Manisha Kelkar. And we also have with us Mr. Vishal Sharma, Global Head HR, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals. Let's applaud for Mr. Vishal Sharma. Dr. VP Rajkumar, CHRO and Head, CSR IG Petrochemicals. Let's applaud for Dr. VP Rajkumar. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. VIPLAV Bhatt, Head HR, Mukand. Mr. VIPLAV Bhatt. And the session will be moderated by none other than Mr. Joy Banerjee, CHRO, IL and FS Group. Mr. Joy Banerjee. Let's welcome Mr. Joy Banerjee with a huge round of applause. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And a warm good evening to all of you. I think all of us were just having a backstage discussion that we have the most tough challenge because we are waiting between the award ceremony and the evening to close. So we are over there. And I think right from the morning, I've been here right from the morning, and we have heard a lot of things about AI and how AI is impacting us. So what we have decided is, as a panel, we're going to keep it pretty free-flowing, and we don't want to get into things or stuff which has already been discussed. So we'll keep it very free-flowing because it's at the end of the day, and the topic that we are discussing is something which is very close to our hearts, because some of us have our performance appraisals which happen somewhere this time of the year, and for some of us during the financial year ending. And this is where the most conversations become little sour between the manager and the team member. So let's see how AI is impacting there also. So I've got a very esteemed panel members along with me. So I give them a warm welcome to me to this particular session. And to kickstart the session, I think I'll start with the first observation, or the first I would say comments from each one of you is, what do you think AI is doing for us as humans? Because performance management is something that has been happening for some time, and there's always a query which comes between the team manager and the team player that I have done this right, and the manager says, this is what you could have done better. So first reflections on what do you think that is happening? I think I'll start with Sudhir.
Yeah, thanks, Joy. One of the biggest things that we've seen is moving from an annual performance appraisal culture to a real-time performance appraisal. That's where AI is contributing in a big way. Earlier, we used to, all of us have gone through an appraisal cycle. At the end of the year is when you sit and then you make a note of what you have done. Right? But with AI, what's happening is I have the opportunity to give a real-time feedback. And that's what we've started, and that's helping us big time. So that's one of the biggest takeaways from deploying AI for performance management. Yeah.
Thanks, Sudhir. Ayush, can we hear your first comments?
Thank you, Joy. Yeah, I'd like to build on that. I agree. Of course, AI helps us to give a continued feedback rather than the one-time feedback during performance management cycle that used to happen earlier. I'd also want to maybe emphasize on the fact that AI is actually helping us to look beyond the usual performance matrix that we have been so used to seeing. All right, we expect our employees to perform, we expect them to do their job, that's one thing. But then we also expect them to go a little beyond. And that's where I believe, it was a little fluid till now. But with the new AI tools coming in, I think it's making our jobs slightly easier in actually focusing on the facets which we had been missing on. So yeah, I mean, that is something that I would love to talk about more in this panel during the course, but yeah.
Sure.
Over to you.
Sure. Manisha?
Thanks. A little difference of opinion with you here. I agree it gives us real-time data, but I think as HR fraternity, it's only going to make our job difficult. Because if you imagine, I'm very sure, even if we are in 2024, when annual appraisals start, the kind of mosam you have in office is very different. People are like, because Jan to March is the time to do all the good work, because people want bosses to remember that that's going to disappear, because that's not going to work anymore. But I think more challenging will be, because now bosses will have to learn the art of true conversation. Nobody is going to waste time saying तुम्हारा fully achieved है कि exceeds है, last year तुमको 2 दिया था, इस साल तुमको 3 दूंगा, नहीं होगा. Those conversations are passé. So I think as HR we will have to invest a lot in training our managers and leaders also to go beyond those numbers and those ratings and have truly meaningful performance conversations which contribute to the development of employees. I think that would be my take on this.
That's wonderful. I think we'll come back to that before we get all the final, the first comments, and then we'll come to that again. Over to you.
Hi. So there are 3 illusions when we talk about performance assessment. The illusion of performance, illusion of reward, and illusion of feedback. So as an employee, I have the illusion that I am doing something great. In absence of feedback, I feel that I'm doing a fantastic job. And when that happens, my reward, when it comes, is not as per my experience, my expectation. What data does is it dismantles these 3 illusions, right? I have seen cases where during the year you hear, you are doing a fantastic job, but at the end of it, you are not assessed the way you are looking at, you are expecting. So data is establishing those, basic tenet of performance assessment, which is adequate, appropriate, and then feedback, which is good or bad, but there is a feedback. I think this is what is happening in today's time in terms of, when there's a lot of data, a lot of technology which is available. So there's a more reliance and semblance of, fairness.
Great. That's a very good point. We'll deep dive later. So, yes.
Good evening, all. I think I would like to put 4 points probably just to express my thoughts on this. Actually, with the digital adoptions and AI, one, we are always talking about feedbacks, not just year-end, but continuous feedbacks. I would say we are moving towards feed forward. You don't have to wait for giving a feedback, but give the feed inputs for the forward, So that the concept of feed forward, which we used to talk theoretically, now with this AI and digital tools, there is quite a possibility of giving feed forward, help the individual to, look forward and say, okay, are you going the right track or not? How do you move forward? That's one. Second, I feel, outliers management. See, appraisal, the basic ratings, 3 ratings, all fine, or the midpoint are fine, but the outliers, generally outliers decisions, whether it is poor performance or high performance promotions, there is a subjectivity, there is an element of opinions and perceptions of the leaders are there. There, now with all the data and AI help, we could take much more better, unbiased and better informed decision when it comes to outliers management. The third element, I would say that with the AI and digital tools, there is a lot of possibility of bringing in a lot of learning, inputs through the performance appraisals and feedbacks is quite possible. We used to traditionally do performance appraisal. There is a column where learning boxes there where you write it down based on your leader's perception on the individual. Okay, this guy needs to improve on Excel, this guy needs to improve on communication. But with this AI tools, it's going to become, or it is much more better and bigger when it comes to learning, identification and learning, initiatives. So that's the third point. Fourth, I would say, even you are using your generative AI like ChatGPT or Perplexity or even Gemini. Recently, we did one exercise where all my president and above level, we were trying to tweak the goals and metrics. And that level, they're all very, very experienced, older, wise people, and they're very adamant as well. So we have to really go and dig down through ChatGPT and try to do a lot of benchmark, prompt it and say what kind of metrics we should bring it in, and then show them, how it's happening. And we were able to, navigate it. So even goal settings would be much more better where, one of the challenges is that goals are even set very subjectively, right? Most of the organization, I'm sure as HR, you will understand that. Metrics are just namesake. But with this AI in tools, it could be much better, where you could bring in more stronger, objectives and key results. Thank you.
Great. That's great pointers. I think we'll deep dive into it in a while.
Yeah, I think most of the things are covered, being in the last, so I do not have much things to say, but I'll share the live experiences. AI, how is helpers is building the capability development based on the historical data. We are able to find out the strengths, weaknesses in a preventive manner, or the very first information ready for doing the appraisals. Rest, I'll share the example is that the alignment of our balance scorecard to the last mile, where it has been done by us through this AI, where the ambiguous goal setting was been eliminated. So there are many such things we have been doing, but right now I'll stop myself here only because it has been helping us in a various way on finding the learning opportunities also, but more we go into the discussion, I'll keep on sharing.
Sure. That makes sense. So, Manisha, I heard a very interesting point from your side. I'd like to deep dive. So my question to you here would be these algorithms and the systems and everything is written by somebody, some human must have written it. So what are your thoughts, while we are using this as a technological support to us, do you think that's going to be helpful in terms of the data that we collect, or it leaves us with some bit of bias?
So far, and I don't know if there is anybody from tech background in the hall here to educate me if I have missed that, but I think my understanding is that so far AI depends on humans. Whatever we program, whatever algorithm we tell them, it just goes and processes that or throws us that output. Or even when it comes to generative AI also, it's only going to answer your questions or whatever description you have given, give you a picture or a video of that. So I think human bias is something very difficult to get rid of even in the age of AI, because that's also developed by humans. Unless as an organization, we spend really good amount of time and energy to understand and really accept the kind of biases that we have been carrying so far in the system, accept them and make sure that when we are creating the system, we don't replicate them. So I think that's one big step. If you want to remove biases, that's very, very important step that all of us will have to do as we progress on this journey.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think what we're getting from that is just having a system will not help. What really looked by any progressive organization is the overall, the culture as well as how you're doing the entire process.
So in a way, we will have to be smarter than the system and think ahead of the system in the way that, I'm writing this, it's going to give me this, tomorrow what's going to happen. So therefore, creating those sustainable systems, we'll have to think much beyond and far more proactively.
Thanks for giving this heads up to us. Sudhir, I would like to come to you because the volume that you handle is so large, and there is geographical thing for you because it's spread across. So, how do you, look at this particular tools of AI and other things being used? Because you may have a situation where you have complete application of system because your basic industry is from there. But then you may also have a situation where you may not have that so-called human intervention. That's what we are talking about. So what are your thoughts on that?
So two things. One is implementation of AI, a completely AI-based system takes time. So we are into a phase where I would call it as an augmented intelligence, whereas we are using AI-based tools supplemented with conventional wisdom. So we started our first area of operation that we used AI was to screen our sales force, the field, the feet on street. Okay. So the amount of volume, amount of manpower that we require and the volume of applications that we get. So that was the first tool where we used to give scenarios to participants who used to record a video. And initially the AI was trained to recognize keywords, basic keywords in the customer pitch. Later on, we tried to train the AI on facial expressions, to gauge the empathy of the candidate, right? Trying to see if the context wasn't absorbed. That's where we started first. Okay. Subsequently, we used AI for tracking the performance of the candidates versus our KPIs and aligning our learning systems based on that. So for example, a sales guy goes out onto the field and he loses a call. So we try to check at which point the call was lost and accordingly make sure that it's something like you have in an Ola also. Based on the customer feedback, you have just-in-time learning solutions. So we're still far off from a fully automated solution, but we've integrated basic AI tools into our consolidated performance management system and tied up our LMS also onto that.
Wow, that's great. So VIPLAV, I'd like to come to you. My question to you is taking cues from what Sudhir is saying. So my question is, can AI entirely replace human judgment? What is your take on that?
No, AI will not replace entire human judgments because AI is more on the algorithm-based things, the process-based things, which will give you the result and the same processes, same time. But at the end of it, humans are having the emotions and that cannot be replaced by AI. Now we are talking about, I'm talking about one of the example where we try to bring more transparency in the system of appraisal where, the managers are not sharing even or not discussing their performance and straight away the ratings are being given. Now AI or the technological development has helped us wherein we implemented a process where unless the report is, the person who is going to be appraised checks in and mentions that he has had a fruitful discussion with his reporting head and all the things has been discussed properly, that AI or that technology is helping me. But how I am discussing with my reportees, that's the human aspect between that two of them. That will never be replaced. That emotional discussion or the way I am talking, the way my louds, the way my feelings are there during my discussion with my reportees, that will never be replaced. So, AI will help you on the repetitive kind of things where the decision making will be taken to an extent by the processes and the systems. So I would say not 100% replaced by, and AI is working on algorithms and machine learning and all those things are coming from humans only. And AI is building our algorithm which has been given by humans. So person who is giving the algorithm is also being a human. So never been replaced by human. I'm totally disagree on that.
Absolutely, but that's good news for us. So then at least the human resource function is continuing for long. Sure. Yeah, so that's good news. So happy news for us. So let's take a little different stance now, because while we do performance, it is important that we also look at teams development. So let me take the lens towards the learning and development. So Vishal, my question to you is, while the tools are giving us some information and they are mainly data driven, what do you think, the modern managers should be equipping themselves with? Of course, Manisha did bring in a point that we all have to be prepared culturally, and that's how we bring to the table of performance discussion. But now we are taking the next step, that the performance discussion is happening. But on the development part, how do we take it forward? So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so for us to talk about performance and then career development, I think that takes a lot of efforts on the part of managers. Right? The first part is that what is the quality of feedback we are giving to our team members? And when we talk about feedback, feedback has to have a basis. Now, which is basically could be your goals or could be your KRAs. What does technology do is, there are two aspects. One, it assesses you or helps you assess your current level of performance. The second element is the predictive power of your tool. Basis, if you feed that data for last 3-4 years, it will give you some idea how you are likely to perform. Now, if you sense that there is a gap, see, development has to be very focused. It cannot be all over the place. It has to be very focused. Now, if you see that there is a gap in terms of what performance you are expecting and what predictively the performance will be delivered, I think that's the gap you will immediately catch. And that's where the technology is helping us. Right? That's one aspect. The second aspect is, if you're looking for a particular employee for a future role which is likely to be 2x complicated than the current one, I think you don't need a rocket scientist to tell your employee that this is the plan which we need to work out. Because as the role grows, the complexity would increase. The role will become more complicated. So how do you understand that new role and plan the development? I think technology can help there as well. But in absence of a very focused discussion starting from feedback, the employee development remains a wish. And it leads more frustration to employee than anything else.
I completely agree with you. So Ayush, coming to you, you have an addition?
So that's a very interesting topic, and in our organization, we use success factors. Okay, very standard product which is many of us must be using, and success factor also has succession planning module, which has inbuilt AI. So if I have defined my career paths right in the system and mapped right skills for the right jobs, then the system is capable of telling me Manisha is doing this job today. In next 3 years, what possible job she can do. That capability is already built into success factor. Where we struggle, and I understand this feature and I am deeply excited about this feature, but we have not gone live with this feature in my organization, at least so far. Because what happens is, one is employee needs to have that understanding of, it is just possibility, but there are things that I need to do before I reach there. Managers also, because today I think how we look at our resources is, and especially if anybody is a good performer, then the manager just doesn't want to lose that person. So my fear is, because all of us are not equipped to work with that level of system telling us what's the right thing to do, it may create more heartburns in the system than motivating employees with saying that, oh, I can see my career path in front of me. Yeah. And unfortunately, so there are different systems. We also have LMS. So LMS data, if that gets integrated into success factor, it can tell me, okay, Manisha has done these trainings. So now, in a way, for the new role, she has got this exposure, but what's the gap remaining? But I think at an organization level, integration of systems at that level and having that full visibility, I think there is a mile for us to, before we reach there and really develop. And then, of course, before we develop the system, develop our leaders to run with that is important.
Sure. So I think VIPLAV wants to add something. So go ahead, please.
See, I mentioned about capability development. We had a competency dictionary for all the positions. Number two, how we are using this entire AI into or the automation or the software holistically. First is we had mapped all the employees against these dictionaries and identified the gaps. Number two, our number two thing is that through a performance appraisal and with the historical background, combination of all these things, AI used to help us to identification of high potential and also being predictive that these are the areas of improvement for this, looking at the competency gaps also which identified through a different process, looking at the performance appraisal, and after going through a training, how he is being improving. So all these holistically being used, and that's how we were being using that data of particular development area for an individual. That has helped us.
You're right. We also use the same concept of a model. And the model breaks down the work to be done into skill sets, right? And based on the performance of a candidate over a period of time, we are trying to use that to predict what could be the likely performance on a certain day, based on the number of people who are there on the field.
That's perfect. So I think predictive analysis is something that the world is moving towards, and I think we are already there. So that's exactly my question to you, Ayush, is that, while we talk about, for all HR professionals, when we have these discussions, there are the 4 Ps that we talk about. The first is the people, obvious. And the second is the potential. The third is the productivity. And finally is the profits. So how do you think that, while using AI, my focus would be is because the rest of the 2 elements of people and potential remaining as constant, how would productivity and profits get impacted?
So, I've been listening to all these points that, you put forth. I believe that we've covered a lot on productivity per se. Coming to think of it, the AI is doing a lot in terms of, making sure that our people are skilled, making sure that our people are out there performing, that performance management is done. At the same time, the high performance individuals are being identified and they're being trained. But, again, one more factor that, brings in of course, it does have an impact, a big impact rather on productivity is, are we actually doing the right thing? Is AI really supplementing our needs? The point which, I'd want to make here is that data analysis is something that, we can teach. Of course, we have our HR trainers coming in. We can tell them the different matrices that we need to work on, give them formulas and Excel sheets, let them work on the matrices and maybe predict a person's future course of, employment within our organization. But I think where the AI needs to actually make a dent and help in increasing productivity is predicting what humans can't. Because see, there was a point that will AI replace humans? Of course not. They will supplement humans. And that is what we should focus on. And they should supplement us at places where we might not be able to reach, or maybe, formulas that we might not be able to implement. So that is where AI should actually be supporting us. As human resource professionals, we'd want the AI to tell us that, okay, that person is stressed out. See the pattern of his emails, the way that he's writing emails to the clients or to the outside parties. Maybe that person has some sort of a stress that needs to be detected. And that is where, the AI would actually be of use. I would love to know if, any of my colleagues, esteemed panelists here, or somebody out there is using such a system where, the system is helping them to analyze. It would have a huge role in increasing productivity, of course. That's what my take is. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you so much. So I'll come to you.
Now, I just thought I'll add up, even if you're looking at mails, you have Copilot, if you see Microsoft. That's an AI tool inbuilt in Microsoft, which could help you to tweak your mail, respond, and also give you some suggestions on how to respond to a particular mail. Just to add an earlier point about learning, I was just thought of sharing that. See, learning is going in a very big way. I was earlier part of a technology firm, part of the founding team. And we were working for Tech Mahindra, if I can take the name of the company. They were looking at to build a lot of very innovative work on all the HR space, especially learning. We were talking about building a Spotify type LMS system. Right? Spotify, I'm sure you're all using it, right? What's the benefit of it? You don't have to curate or you don't have to create an album. You can just click somebody else's album and use it if you like it, right? And it can suggest you, it can give you a lot of solutions, and it also creates community. So community-based learning. So that's the way of technology-driven learning systems are going into. Just coming back on this question on productivity. For example, right now in our organization, we use quite a lot of digital transformation initiatives and AI tools, especially on the productivity front. If you see on the safety, factories in the safety area, even fuel consumption or operational efficiency, there are a lot of tools have come, a lot of AI-enabled solutions have come, which helps us to get data. Earlier, it was not possible humanly. Like, for example, you have some 1,000 electric meters in different locations, and you have to read it, analyze it, and then take a data and take decisions. Earlier, it used to be very cumbersome process. Now, with this AI, it can just give you the data in your mobile. The dashboard is there where it can give you all the data to take a decision. Just, I thought I'll add it.
Thanks for adding that. So, in fact, my follow-up question, which was planned for you, was like, yeah.
Sorry, I was just thinking, should I not? But I think within HR fraternity, we should be more open and transparent. I think AI will do a far better job in judgment than humans, if we have built it well. Because I think as human being, we have our highs, lows, our limitations, but because in our organization also, I'm sure every organization today, the tools that we use for planning, especially sales planning, production planning, etc., these are all AI-driven engines. And the kind of data they are able to look at and parameters that they can integrate into before throwing you a number saying that this month in this state you could look at selling this much of so-and-so product. It's amazing to see that. But of course, for that, the person who is defined the parameters and said what weightage to give to which parameter has to be foolproof. But once that is in place, I think AI will be far more effective in judgment than humans, for sure.
Superb. I think you just read my mind, because my next question, Raj, to you was something on similar, that how can organizations maintain transparency and fairness when using AI-driven performance evaluation tools? So I think that's a question for you.
I think I second what my co-panelist said, what she said. I would even call this word called AI bias, not just human bias. The AI bias is because of human biases there. The programs which has been made has an element of what data to be picked up and what data to be analyzed. It's basically from the humans, from us. So there you need to have a better governance, I would say. There are good companies, large global companies. What I understand and what I read also is that they have AI governance committees are there now, right? So AI digital transformation tools are all just supplemental tools. They are not your substitutes for your decisions. You can't substitute a human. It can only supplement the human to take better, advanced, decision-driven, data-driven decisions. But the governance element is very important, because if you leave that, then your AI can start ruling all your world, like what we see in the futuristic movies. So the most important thing for transparency is communication. I think you need to communicate. You need to be very clear, transparent to your employees. For example, what are the data points are being looked at, how you are judged, how your performance is evaluated, and how the measurements are, how the decisions are going to be taken. The communication plays an important role to bring more transparency. That's first thing. Second, there is always, see, we are now working with 5 generations of workforce, right? In every, I'm sure most of the organization, we have 5 different generations are working, or at least 4 different generations. So each category looks at AI or digital transformation in a different way. One is completely perplexed, what's going to happen to us, or what's going to happen to my control. Most of the senior most leaders in the organization, different levels. Younger generation are more, used to it, and they handle it in different ways. So you need to have different levels and different programs, I would say, to reach out to them, to ensure that they understand the AI initiatives in a better way, and they also start looking at this as a, as a tool for their benefit rather than a threatening thing. For example, when I talk about senior most people, they say, you have all the data, fine, but I know the guy. I know him. I want to promote him. Right? You may have hundreds of data, but at the end of the day, the decision is from your topmost person. He says, okay, just leave it. What he says is right. I know this person 10 years, 20 years, let's go ahead. So you need to know where to pull the data and use it also. AI could help you to give those intelligent information, but you need to, end of the day, use as a supplemental tool. And to bring transparency and thing, you need to have proper governance. The policies should be very transparent and communicated well to the employees. Yeah, that's what.
Absolutely. In fact, what you said is like, we have human intelligence, we have artificial intelligence, but then in companies, what works is the LI, which is the Lala intelligence. Lala ji ne bola to karna hi padega. So, BHATT, you had a point here.
So, that's what in your earlier question you asked me, can AI replace humans or not? This is one of the example of that. Somewhere it cannot replace for many things. But I wanted to answer just in line with your transparency question, how through AI, especially on that point. So we had a dipstick survey, and we tried to find out how the appraisal process has been going on. And the comments were that, there was no communications regarding our ratings and why and all justifications and all. So that's where during the process flow, through AI and through automation, we implemented by force, it has to be checked in and accepted by the reportee. And there was a fruitful discussion. But after that part also, in a transparency point of view, we also AI through, the system through, we try to identify historical data. That's where we all are talking about AI helps on. So Mr. X is at particular rating in last 2 years, and today in this year he has been at this rating, in spite of talking and justification. There may be we don't know how discussion has happened between them. So AI is helping us identifying why this person is suddenly at this level or why this person is suddenly at that level. That's where you can use this technological one. That's I wanted to say, how transparency can bring up. So we can raise those things.
I fully agree. So Vishal, you wanted to add something?
No, I'm saying transparency is a very funny thing, right? It's a double-edged sword. Everybody sitting here wants transparency. But when it comes to giving transparency, we have a lot of however, ifs and buts. So, especially in HR, there are times when we take a conscious decision, now this is not, we are going to disclose, we are not going to share. So we are living in a world which demands lots of transparency or full transparency, which is a very lofty goal. Yes, we can, but the consequences is something which we are not tuned to handle. Whether it is technology or any sort of, aid we can use, but transparency is very, very difficult, very difficult.
Sure. So we'll take a pause here. So I think we just have about 10 minutes left. So we are wanting to hear from the audience. This will also give it a sense that the audience is awake. So is everybody awake? So any questions from the audience so that we can give enough time to answer your questions? Anybody? Somebody can give a mic.
Okay, yes, I'm loud and clear now. So we were talking about the ratings, and I heard VIPLAV saying that after all, it's a Lala company. After all, the boss decides whatever we need to do. But that being said, in my experience, I've seen that an employee who's been rated as 2, and in our system, if we change his profile, he suddenly starts performing well. So, not necessarily if an employee is not performing in a current role, there is a possibility that he may perform in a different role. And that kind of thought should be given, or that kind of opportunity should be given to an employee before we let the employee go. Yeah, so that thing, I don't know how many organizations are actually looking into before we take a call. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Anybody wants to take it?
I think what he said is absolutely very critical. I'm sure most of the organization which takes PMS seriously will do that. End of the day, it's not just the data you just look at and just take it forward. You have to have those meetings, discussions, calibrations, and also look at the human element of the performance, right? Performance is always relative. This year somebody has performed doesn't mean next year will perform, or in this organization one has performed doesn't mean next organization. So there could be many factors which influence performance. So always you have to, that's where the leadership training or the training the leaders are very important. How do you apprise somebody, right? The performance feedbacks, how do you, or feed forwards, how do you do that? That has to be very important. You have to look at it very importantly and train the leaders, because at the end of the day, the leaders have to give those feedbacks. So it's very important element. It's not just the number; it is the human element as well.
See, what I was trying to tell is that, first of all, how to make use of AI in identification and making the transparency. So it will help us in identification where there is some discrepancy in this rating. I'm not saying that person cannot improve his performance. Another thing is that how we are holistically using the technology. There are various data points, if historical, his potential, his strengths, weaknesses, his competency mapping, his yearly improvement chart. So are we having that matured system? That needs to be developed first. With these all supporting information, you can identify these discrepancy cases and ensure that there is a proper flow and proper justification has been given to Mr. X or Y. So there is no question that person can improve, and that is what is in the organization. Why this L&D is for? Improvement only. So that is the basic requirement.
Correct. So what we are actually talking about is not only one system, it's the entire ecosystem that needs to be done, and that's where the results will be more better. It's not only doing one system which can take care of everything.
One more thing I want to add. In earlier question, we were talking about productivity. I will share one of the live example. The goal setting which we are doing, how we did it from a scorecard, business scorecard to a last mile. First we prepare the dictionary of goals. Now what is the challenge is that goal setting are always being happening vague or not in the directions or not in the philosophy of our smart and all quantifiable thing. So we by default created the dictionary for each role goal setting, and it has been by default mandatorily person has to go from that drop down menu and you have to align with that goal. So one is improving my productivity with these goals. Number two, we had, as he's telling, the holistic approach, we had connected. For example, we were talking about production and all. So am I increasing my overtime? Am I increasing my manpower or not? How I am increasing my performance? I am connecting all these things. So AI will help us connecting all data point. That is how you have to use it for productivity and all. So hope I am able to in line with that.
Absolutely. Manisha has a point to add, and we are just running short of time, so we'll take one more question.
No. I just wanted to ask, I don't know what's your name, but congratulations, because the way you are thinking is right, because with AI this will be possible. So far, developing career was always in boss's hand, but I think the kind of performance monitoring tools that we have available today, which can give deeper insights into person's capability and comfort on different kind of tasks and roles, it is much easier to do this career planning and find right jobs for the right person.
We just have 3 minutes. One more last question we can quickly answer before we wrap it up, before the bell goes. Any last question? Yeah. Somebody help with the mic, please.
Yeah, can I go? Yeah, my name is Kaushik, okay? So I'm from Chennai, and two things I want to give a food for thought, okay, for this. So one is employee performance management we are talking about, right? The era which we saw is always a feedback. When the era of AI comes in, right, it has to be feed forward, because AI works 10 times more for you to give the result. So that is one thing. And the second thing is that as we are talking, AI will replace HR or not. There are 4 questions in, you know, right? One is IQ, EQ, SQ, and AQ. Okay? AI will take over only IQ and AQ, not the SQ and EQ. That is my thought. Just wanted to hear from you.
Are SQ and EQ going to remain relevant in way forward for business decisions?
No, if there is a human touch involved, right, then there's going to be an emotional connect and also a social connect. So if I have to put precise, right, IQ will make you higher, EQ will make you promoted, SQ will make you retained, AQ will get through the things of business.
We understand, right? But what is SQ and AQ? Can you just define what question?
SQ is social quotient.
Okay, friend, I did speak about feed forward. If you have not, probably you are out, I think.
Okay.
Matlab, whether inside or outside, but you are not there. So we did speak about that feed forward, which is happening, not just because of digital systems, even earlier also, if you have a continuous feedback system or feed forward system, it is happening, and now also it will happen more. With regard to that, all the cues you said, it is going to be again influenced by AI. You just wait and watch. I'm sure you would have seen a lot of movies like Real Steel and all, right? Even a boxing robo can express and have emotions. That's going to be the future. AI, for example, the newest version of ChatGPT, which is just launched actually, it is much more advanced. You know, we are talking about emotional sensing also nowadays. I'm sure in many of the airports you would see the screens, which is biofacial screens. They start capturing your expressions as well. So AI, not just IQ or AQ, but also SQ and EQs are also going to be managed. At SQ, obviously, all the social tools nowadays are now focusing on the social quotient as well. You know, how do you position yourself? If you have seen a movie called Surrogate, that movie, it's all about you sit in the home, but your robo will go and work for you and live for you, right? That's the future we are talking about, and it's going to be possible. Actually.
Yeah, great. So I think here we have to, finally call it for the day. So thank you, audience, for being with us, and thank you, panelists, for being such a good panel. And finally, we cannot leave the podium without thanking Synex for giving us this opportunity. Thank you, Synex, for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let's applaud once again for all the speakers. And may I please have on stage Mr. 𝐤𝐥𝐨𝐻 Singh, founder and CEO Resonacle, for felicitating all our speakers. So first of all, we'll be felicitating Mr. Kavindra Pant, VP HR Shapoorji Pallonji Energy. Let's keep the applause going. Mr. Sudhir Warier, Head of Learning and Development in Premises Connect, Reliance Jio Infocom. Next we have Mr. Ayush Shankar Dikshit, AGM, Human Resources and Administration, BEC Chemicals. Ms. Manisha Kelkar, CHRO, Nuvoco Vistas. Mr. Vishal Sharma, Global Head, HR, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals. Let's keep the applause going. Dr. VP Rajkumar, CHRO, Head, CSR IG, Petrochemicals. Mr. VIPLAV Bhatt, Head, HR, Mukand. And last but not the least, the moderator for the day, Mr. Joy Banerjee, CHRO, IL and FS Group. Let's applaud for Mr. Joy Banerjee. I request all the speakers to please gather on the stage for a group photo. Post felicitation.